Hi, welcome to the jungle. You're ACDC, and I'm Sam Mulchers. So the year is 2006. You're just born, and there's a whole bunch of great movies coming out. So when you're a kid and you're at prime time to watch television, and your mind is sort of getting all this new knowledge, and you're watching things, and you really start to remember them. I watched Spy Kids. I know other movies, but Spy Kids is the topic of this video, so that's important. So I watched Spy Kids, all three of them, with my older siblings when I was pretty young, and I started to remember them pretty well, and I really liked the third. And what's weird is most kids who were born in 2006 and 5 in that era, that I talk to at least, they all say that the third Spy Kids is their favorite, even though it is the worst in most regards, but it's our favorite, and I don't know why. And they remade it. Netflix remade the third Spy Kids. That's the main thesis of the video. It's probably on the thumbnail. That's why you clicked on the video. Unless you know me in real life, and then you click on the video for pity points. Thank you. Still matters. In some of the establishing shots of the movie, we learn that the dad, who is played by Shazam, is a spy, along with his wife, and then the main two children, Tony and Patty. I keep trying to say Patty, and accidentally saying Peggy. I don't know why. But Patty and Tony is kind of a rascal. He plays the same character in the video game, a Ratscallion or something. I don't know. It's pretty clear he's a scoundrel. He does anything to win. He even says that in the movie. While Patty watches Darman. She speaks like straight up Darman scripts, and that's the two main characters. And then their parents, the dad, who is from Shazam, and the mom, I don't know her from anything else, like the actor that is. They are both spies, and they have a secret code on their computer. This is the establishing shots of the movie, and it's pretty okay, it's whatever. We then find out that there's going to be a new game release. This new game is going to be called High Score, and it is made by someone who calls himself the King and has a very, very creepy smile, and also says, "Join me," like this.
Shall we?
I think that might be later. I can't really tell, and I don't want to look it up. So right away we learned that there's a code that the parents have on the computer, and I've mentioned that. It's called the Armageddon code. That's where the name of the movie comes from. This Armageddon code can get into anything. It shows them getting into, I forget, it shows them getting in, it shows the parents on a spy mission getting into something using that code, which makes me kind of think, why do they have it? If these are the good guys, why do they have something called the Armageddon code? And that's a lot of power. The OSS cannot handle that. They do not need that much power. Anyway, it just shows how powerful this Armageddon code is, and it's on like a watch. Yeah, it can do a lot. Small but mighty.
That's what she said.
And while at school, I think, the kids are playing the card game version of the video game. And because Tony cheats and wins at the card game, they get early access to the new release of the game called High Score. It was Low Score, but they remade it for High Score. And they mention something called a one-hit power-up. One hit, and it's a legend, and it's where if you die, you get brought back to life and one hit your opponent that killed you. They only mention it this one time, but it does come up again, so don't you forget it. If you do, I will have to sue, and you better contact your lawyers, as I have Spock from Star Trek on my side. So the kids stay up late and try and get the new video game on their system at the same time that their parents just so happen to be deleting the Armageddon code. And you can probably guess what happens. The King, the creator of High Score, the video game, gets access to the Armageddon code. And he wants it very badly. Apparently he was looking for it, I guess. He knew about it. Anyway, the King gets access to the Armageddon code. But turns out it was only half. So the kids just go to bed and don't think anything of it. However, when they're on the way to get the video game installed, I just have to say this. This would not work in real life, and I will show you what would have happened.
Here, give me that.
Anyway, that's just small things. On the way, anyway, that was just a small thing on the way to them getting the movie downloaded. Anyway, they wake up and everything is in distress. They see that their parents are frantically running through the halls, or they're watching the news, and there's breaking news where pretty much half of all of the products with a screen, you have to play a video game to enter. And because most people don't want to play a video game and don't know how to do 2D parkour to enter their house, a lot of things go wrong. Like a lot of car accidents happen and a lot of cars you can't get into because not modern day cars would just shut down and say you have to play the game to continue driving. Well, that would create collisions and stuff. So there's a lot of ruckus going on. Then we are introduced to some really good looking Power Ranger villains. That's right. They're pretty much just Power Ranger villains, but they're the ones that are stupid and don't actually know what they're doing. They just sort of go like that the whole time, and it's kind of weird. Anyway, they show up at the spy's house, the spy family's house, and they go into the safe room within their house. They get the parents get the kids into the car, and the kids drive off to the safe house. So while the kids are on the way to the safe house, the parents get interrogated, and basically we are led to believe that the dad did in fact create the code, but he split it up so that even that family would only have one half of the code. And that's why only half of the machines and computers and screens are being controlled by the king. So the king wants the other half of the code. But of course, Shazam ain't gonna let that information up. So the kids go to the house, and this is probably the first similarity that I don't like. This isn't the Spy Kids 3. This is just the Spy Kids 1, where at the safe house, they have to say their very, very long name to get into the safe house. It's okay. If it was a reboot, I don't think this was supposed to be a reboot. From what I can tell, this was supposed to be a continuation because it uses the OSS. It doesn't actually use any of the tech from the old one, so maybe it is a reboot. But why? You can just continue the story. Just make it for kids. It's a small thing, but they do use that trope where they have to use a really long name to get into the safe house. But the safe house is much cooler than the first. I do just want to say that the tech is cooler. Okay, they have a full-on training course in the safe house of how to be a spy. Tony gets a how to be a spy handbook that teaches him how to be all mischievous and devious and whatnot, and he ends up licking the ice cream and putting it back, if you remember that for some reason. While Patty, on the other hand, is more fixated on the nicer things. She just wants to train just to be cool. She likes the emotion bomb, which I like too. It's pretty cool. The scene that they use it, they make them all hungry. So you choose an emotion on it, throw it, and everyone around it feels that emotion. It's really cool. I really like the idea, but they only use it twice. I wish that they used it more, but can't really do that. Where they went, I will get to that in a second. It's in these scenes where there is a lot of slapstick humor, and I'll just play a montage of that with some sound effects that I added so that it's still transformative work and not just taking the movie and showing it to you. Again, there's a classic scene where the OSS comes and try and help the kid, but the kids don't know that they're on their side and start, messing around with them and stuff. There's no jetpack scene. There's no fire hairy lady. But I do like the scene a lot. It's pretty neat. The kids are, after a little while, taken to the OSS where we meet the president of the OSS. Not for the first time. This is the first time he's relevant. He is not George Clooney, which I feel is a shame. They had a budget of a whole bunch of money. I'll probably put it up here, or if I don't want to disturb the draft, Mr. Nice Guy. I'll probably put it here or something. But yeah, they had this much money to make this movie. They could have gotten George Clooney. They really should have. He was probably the best part of the old Spy Kids, and I'm joking, of course, but I really do think that they should have gotten him. Anyway, he's pretty cool. He has the double sunglasses. One of them says OSS boss, and it's pretty cool. Again, I prefer George Clooney's sunglasses of black bar. I just like that. Anyway, that's besides the point. The security at the OSS, what were they thinking? They even mention, the president of the OSS even mentions how much he spent on security. And it is 3 people around some cars. That's all we see. Maybe some cameras. That's it. And of course the bad guys get in, but not before Patty remembers that her mom gave her a tracker. And they reverse that tracker to get the signal of where their parents are. And then the goons show up and, start ruining things. So the 2 kids frantically jump into the Ducky, I think they call it. Basically supposed to be one-man aircraft to go really fast and really far, and the kids use it to get to the base. The base is pretty flippin' dope. I wish that they would have spent the rest of the movie in that base, but they didn't. That's what gets me so mad. Again, in just a second, just before the kids arrive at the King's mega base, we find out this little bit of information that the dad did not, in fact, make the Armageddon code. He stole it during one of their infamous fireball missions, where they mention it a whole bunch, kind of like what I did, but they won't mention it, where they won't talk about it. So, I apologize for that, because I know how frustrating it is, but I don't want you clicking off. So then we learn that the dad did not make the code, neither did he know how to use the code. He had the plans and the code just up on his computer in the video. I guess that's why he had such a complicated one in the when we see him. But yeah, he had the Armageddon code just up on his computer, and Tony walks in and just solves it instantly. Just knows, okay, put that there, put that there, and then the Armageddon code was usable. And then they split it and so forth. The rest is history. So the dad accidentally gives this information to the king by the king, pretending to be his wife and the mom of the Spy Kids. And that was just a really creepy scene I don't like it. I'll show it to you. So then, after the king understands that Tony is what he really needs, the kids get into the cell and, break out the parents and whatnot. There's a really weird scene of the parents taking off the sunglasses of their children as if they're seeing their kid's face for the first time, or as if it would make them not be able to hug them, or I don't know. I got a really weird feeling when I watched this, so I'll show it to you and show you my version again. So now the Spy Kids realize that they have to go stop the bad guy, stop the code, and the parents go try and get help from the OSS. They go alert them. So the kids are running and whatnot, getting to the place where they need to end the code. And right before Tony puts in the final thing to stop the whole countdown that the king had started, Tony realizes, wait a minute, I can stop this at the source if I go to the main computer. So he goes to the main computer and sees a puzzle. So he thinks to make the timer stop, I need to solve the puzzle, which makes sense. So he solves it. The king walks out and says, ha ha ha, you fell into my trap. You just connected the Armageddon code, which we already have spoken of how powerful that Armageddon code is. And what does he want with the Armageddon code? Well, I'll tell you now. He wants to control people. He wants to make them better. He wants them to play his game to be better. He wants to make everyone play his game and get better, which is pretty much the exact same as Sylvester Stallone, but not as funny because he doesn't have the council of Stallones. So I prefer the Stallone version of that. And once Tony realizes, oh shoot, I just helped the bad guy because I thought I could be devious and get around him and outsmart him, then the parents walk in and realize what has happened, and they just give up. The parents give up. The kids don't, but the parents are like, well, he has the full Armageddon code. We can't stop him. Let's just go home and live happy while we can, which is actually pretty neat that the parents decide to do that. Most of the time they don't. But Patty, who I haven't talked to him about in a while, uses some of her Darn Man knowledge. She says, no, we can solve this. Let's just go over there, and goes to the VR simulators, which are actually more like gaming setups. They're not VR specific, which is kind of odd. Anyway, that's where we see the Power Ranger villains against. They do come back. However, Patty just throws the emotion bomb at them, and they're super cute and just help the spy family. I just want to take a second to explain how crazy this subplot is, or this subpoint. I don't even know what you would call it. The king found a way to create a villain or a character in a video game and bring them back, or bring them to the real world. And he can fully animate their movements. They were fighting. They were really strong. He could have had so much more potential with that rather than what they did do. Anyway, that's just a little small thing. The family goes into the video game because that's where the king is, and they be like, well, let's stop the king in the video game. So they go in there, and there's some really awful line delivery from all of the actors, I think, and a not so seamless voiceover. That's the word I was thinking of. One of those things where the player turns their head and they replace the audio with something completely different and expect you to sound the same. We get to the final fight. Oh, also, one thing I want to mention. Before going into the video game, Tony tells his dad, hey, you know how you tell me that video games will rot my brain and fry them? There's a possibility that could happen. Okay, so now moving into the video game, everyone decides that Tony should be the one to go up against the king since Tony wins so much. However, Tony isn't being bad anymore. He decided that was no good, and he can't be mischievous and devious and like ice cream. Tony says to Patty, what if I am not good enough? What if I lose against the king who made this universe and can do whatever he wants? And Patty says this. No, it isn't. Please, don't do that. It's not worth it. It can literally fry your brain. If it can kill you, don't do that. This ain't fun and games anymore. It's all fun and games until someone's brain gets fried in the video game called High Score. Anyway, Mom, Dad, and Patty go fight what's called the Heck Night. Not important. While Tony fights the king. They fight, and I kid you not, on a stone platform. Okay, not too crazy. Well, it's floating on lava. Okay, that's a similarity to Spy Kids 3, but there's a lot of movies that have fighting on stone platforms on lava, like Spider-Man, Star Wars 3. Not too crazy, okay? But they're fighting with long sticks. Okay, now we're getting a little too close to Spy Kids 3. And yeah, so they fight, and it's pretty much the exact same thing as Spy Kids 3. And the dad tries to help because they finished with the Heck Night, and Tony takes the blast from his dad. That sounds really weird. Don't clip out of context. And Tony is like on the ground crawling, like I can't die. I need to win. And Tony gets in some good more moves against the king, but the king eventually kills Tony. I want to mention another thing. Look at how the hit points are displayed. You notice anything similar? You might as well just be saying, oops.
Oops.
It frustrates me so much that they didn't even give credit to like the original. They did not so much credit, but more like it's not alluding, it's just straight up using the same animations and stuff. It's making me sick. I'm joking, I've been sick for 3 weeks. Anyway, and now for the big moment, Tony's just about to die. The family's all sad. The Heck Knight is there, and the king is happy because the king's like, I won. I defeated the kid. I can do whatever I want now with the Armageddon code. Did you forget about the legendary one hit? I told you not to. Okay, I'll let you go this time, but next time I am going to have Captain Kirk on speed dial to come to your house, do a private trial right in your house, and condemn you. Don't you dare forget again. Tony uses a legendary one hit and kills Kang and fries his brain. That's how the movie ends. I'm joking, of course. That's not what happens. It does not fry your brain. So everyone gets out of the video game. The Armageddon code is safe and destroyed. And the OSS comes in. They really, really, really should have been wearing the 3D glasses from the third. That would have been a perfect, allude to the third movie. It would have been perfect. Like, the OSS remembers, hey, video game monster or video game bad guy, let's wear the 3D glasses. Maybe they'll come in handy. Yeah, and nobody rung the dingster.
Somebody ring the dingster.
Also, Steve Buscemi isn't there. Missed opportunity. All around, bad movie. I'm joking. But Steve Buscemi, please show up in the next Spy Kids movie. Anyway, the king ends up having to live in his video game for a little bit just because it's designed to make the player better, and after 6 months or something in the video game, the king gets let out and is helping people and more charitable. It's a happy ending. The kids end up working at the OSS, big surprise, and there's a whole big spy family. Now I'm going to address specifically all of the similarities to Spy Kids 3. Spy Kids 3. Similarity time. 1. The Armageddon code. That's not too similar to anything. Wrong. It's the third brain. Do you remember that? The little bionic brains that were built by Steve Buscemi and the other guy, and also the really good looking guy. I don't know their names, but the original Spy Kids dad, Mr. Cortez. Yeah, the third brain was created by him, supposed to be destroyed, but the toy master gets a hold of it or wants it. And that's the plot of the third Spy Kids. It is the same plot as this Spy Kids number 2. The idea of a video game. There are so many things that you can do a Spy Kids movie about. And it's not necessarily copyrighted to Spy Kids 3 now. But the amount of conversations and its similarities about the video game, because it's a new video game. All the kids want it. And, they have to play and defeat the bad guy in it, and that those are just a few things. And also the hit points being the same, the final fight being similar, not to the final fight in the third. The final fight in the third is pretty cool, but to the fights that were in the third Spy Kids. There's just so many similarities with this video game that makes it kind of the same. It makes it not just inspired by, but directly taken from. And then there's, of course, the movie tropes, and this is under 3, just the other category of just for example, the overly long name. Okay, whatever, it's one thing, but then you add that with the safe house being similar with, but then you add that with the OSS agents trying to get the Spy Kids, and it's similar in that aspect as well. So it's not just one thing connected to the safe house, it's now 2, and then there's a whole bunch of, there's just a lot of similarities, so much to the point where it's not a similarity at that point, it's more so taking from, which I don't like. And they're... Final thoughts. Is this a good Spy Kids movie? It is, in fact, a pretty good Spy Kids movie. It invigorates the same I want to be a spy feeling. And if I was, 6 or 8, this would be a perfect Spy Kids movie. You have all the elements that you love from the other Spy Kids movie. You have the quippy comments and the humor and whatnot. There's not as much for the adults. I do have to say there's not as much for them as there were in the other ones, but there doesn't really need to be, and that's fine. It's a good movie because it's made for kids, so it's a good movie for kids. Is it a good movie overall in a general term? I'd put it at about a 6, maybe a 7. I wouldn't want to put it at a 7 because I don't know, I don't want to, so I don't have to. This is my review. Go make your own if you feel that strongly about it. Okay, geez. I'm gonna so yeah, this is my review of Spy Kids and the fact that Steve Buscemi should have been in it. Also, just once again, I want to stress, they never, ever, ever rung the dingster. I'm looking for something because I was going to add something to the video, but I don't seem to know where I put it, and it's kind of making me frustrated. It's the sponsor. I put something somewhere over here, and I don't know where it was. Oh yeah, it's the segue to our sponsor. I don't have a sponsor, and I just got up to shut off the camera and forgot I should say that. I'm going to leave you with one last clip from the movie. Ring.